And we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast number 8. And yeah, we are here to talk about Temtem with Victor. But first things first,
Hey, what up?
we have Schmuckman here with us, like always.
Hey,
What up, Schmuckman? Unfortunately, we don't have Sam because he had work until late. So yeah, he didn't make it. But he will be around here on the chat. I'm pretty sure of it. But
and we managed to have this early due to the fact that I don't have work today.
exactly,
So
that's something as well.
otherwise,
Um,
might not have happened.
exactly. And we have Victor with us. How are you doing?
Hey, hi guys. I'm really happy to be here with you. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for accepting our invite. That's pretty
My
awesome.
absolute pleasure. I never lose a chance to talk about Temtem. In fact, I never lose a chance to talk. So you might regret it before the night ends. So just let's see.
I mean, I've met you in Lisbon a couple months ago. You were having a talk on I don't remember the name of the thing. It was game dev. You remember in Lisbon? Right?
Yeah, I think it's called Game Dev Camp or something like that. Yeah.
There you
so
go.
it's yeah. I was super happy to be invited to give a talk there. By the now it's me who doesn't remember the name, but there's this really long and complicated name of a certain video games association of Portugal,
Mhm.
which I regret I don't remember entirely. But yeah, no, it was a very lovely occasion, and I got to give a talk about the narrative design ins and outs of Temtem.
Exactly.
And it feels like a lifetime ago, honestly, because that was before the early access launched.
Yeah.
So a lot of things were still. I was actually saying them for the first time, and a lot of people didn't even know the game by then. So yeah, it's just been a few months, but it definitely feels like a long time ago.
I was super excited because I've been following the project for a long time now. And when I saw that Temtem Victor is going to be there talking about Temtem, I was like, seriously? Is this going to happen? So I just stayed there. I know that you were calling everyone, don't leave, please come here. I'm a good person. And I was like there sitting, I want to hear him.
Yeah, I'm not known to be particularly subtle about the way I promote myself. Yeah, and I remember like some guys
Sometimes
were,
subtlety's not
yeah,
needed.
you just gotta sell yourself, I guess. Yeah, some guys were just walking out. I was like, no, don't leave. And I think it was a combination of that and the extremely loud shirt I was wearing that day. And yeah, somehow I did manage to get some guys to listen to my talk. It was fun. I really enjoyed the very few days I got to spend in Lisbon. I really like the community there. It's small, but like really, I felt very welcome, and I felt like there was a huge will to make games and to make something interesting and worthwhile. Yeah, I felt very much at home there.
Yeah. Well, that's great to hear. That's great to hear. I know that I mean, I'm not part of the gaming community. Well, I am, but I don't code or anything. So I'm just friend with people that code. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah, let's say the extended family of game development.
Exactly. So
Yeah, I've been there myself.
yeah, but tell me about you. How does this grow on you? Like the will of I don't know, telling stories.
Well, it's something. I mean, it's kind of been there forever, pretty much. So when I was a little kid, I knew I wanted to be a writer, and because like I'm I'm older than I sound probably. So when I was a kid, writing video games was not. I mean, I'm not gonna say it was not an option. It was not even a dream. Like it was something so crazy. I mean, I'm talking about probably the early 90s when, and like me and my little brother would spend the us talking about video games, and when we grow up we want to make video games, and we're going to make a video game that is just just like Commandos, but then it has a little bit of a graphic adventure, and they're like these kind of crazy dreams. But we talked about that sort of stuff in the same way that you might talk about being an astronaut,
Mm-hmm.
or being Ronaldo. Like, it's just crazy talk, right? You just assume that that sort of thing is never possible. So it was quite interesting because my brother, he's an amazing person, he actually studied programming, and he went on to become a video game programmer and then designer. So he actually did kind of follow through on that dream. As I studied economics, and then I worked as a consultant, and then I did some time as a copywriting advertiser. So I kind of went another way, and because in my mind the idea of making games and the idea of writing, of like telling stories, they were completely separate for so many years. Because even when the video game industry started becoming a little bit more accessible, a little bit more well known in terms of, well, you have some information about the people making the games, not just like the pure advertising of the games themselves. Even then, being a video game writer, it sounded like a very, very, very long shot. At the best of times. Let's not even mention being Spanish and not being exactly in the top #1 country for game development, precisely. So
I know.
Well, I mean, probably I'm guessing Portugal is in a similar place. So solidarity, brother.
Unfortunately, people are not putting time or either money on the gaming industry right now. Like, I'm talking about the government. I know that you guys in Spain right now, you're having a huge support from the from those types of via, let's call it like that. So you guys are actually receiving a lot of support from those areas that here in Portugal we are unfortunately not receiving.
Well, I'm not very well informed about that, because like me personally, I've been living in the UK for the last 8 years, a little bit more than 8 years. So I don't have like first hand information. However, I mean, it's like public funding in Spain. Let me be very diplomatic here. It has a way of finding its way towards the pockets of just a very few firms, and some of them make games, and some of them just have subventions and don't even make games. But leaving that aside, it's I know for sure that Temtem has not been made on subvention money. So there is something going on, but it's nowhere near the degree it should be in terms of how much support from the institutions we need. We do have a very big bubble in video game training and education, and it's quite interesting because you have probably many more people employed in a variety of degrees and masters and courses and whatnot to actually teach people how to make games, and we have much more people doing that than people actually making games. So it's quite an interesting thing. So obviously games is a very interesting sector, and a lot of people have a strong vocation and they want to make games, and they spend a lot of money on training and on getting those degrees that they think it would be useful to make games, but then when they actually finish their education and step into the real world, they discover the hard truth, that is that basically there are close to no jobs to be had in the close to non-existent Spanish video game industry. So I'm exaggerating a little bit here. There is an industry, however, it's made up of a handful of really, really very few big companies, and by big I mean studio in between 100 and 200 people, and that counts as very big in Spanish terms. And probably, I mean, from the top of my head, there's maybe like 4-5 studios of that size in Spain nowadays. And the rest of them, they're, well, with some exceptions, such as Kremer, for instance, thankfully, but most of them. So like, when we have these white papers coming from the government and kind of triumphantly announcing that, oh, we have more than 500 studios active in Spain, I mean, we tend to forget the fact that maybe 70% of them, and I'm probably lowballing it, maybe 70% of them are literally 4 guys in their proverbial garage, not actually making any money, not actually paying wages. And let me say, I have a lot of respect for the sort of development, and I have a lot of sympathy for them. However, that is not an industry. If you're not able to pay a salary, if people are not able to treat that as a real job, if they need to keep a day job because they are not paid because there's no money to be had, then I'm sorry, but that doesn't qualify as an industry for me. Because basically you have no space to grow, you have nowhere to go, and you have no one to learn from. And this is in my opinion one of the greatest problems we have in the Spanish video game industry. So like the first obvious problem is that it's really difficult to get a job. It's very difficult to make rent making games. But the second hidden problem is that because it's such a small world, you have very few senior people that can actually teach you to be better. So if you don't have access to these people, then obviously, I mean, you are slowly going somewhere, but it's very slowly, and there's a lot of corpses on the side of that road, if you allow me to be a little bit melodramatic about it. So that's one of the things that I'm really concerned about, that sometimes it feels like we are not getting anywhere because there's sometimes not enough space to grow. And incidentally, that's one of the reasons why I've been living in the UK. Not because I love the weather, to be honest, but yeah.
I was about to ask you, how's the weather there?
Oh, come on, don't do that to me. Come on. I mean, I'm a Mediterranean guy. The weather sucks. It sucks. That's how it is. I mean, it's never I mean, when they call it summer here, it's like a pale reflection of what spring should be. Should be, because the weather is broken here. So
see.
No, don't get me started on the weather, man.
Weather's nerf, please fix.
So we already covered the part how this whole story of writing about games started. So let's talk about the story itself about Temtem. I already know a little bit of it, but people want to hear him from you. How the story of Temtem works. We have 6 different islands. We don't have access to all of them right now. But they all have a story behind that connects to something in real life, right?
Yeah, I mean, Temtem, a great satisfaction to write, among other things, because I had a lot of freedom to basically tell whatever story I wanted to tell. Well, provided it fits the genre and the audience, of course. But yeah, basically, when I came into the project, I was given this kind of blank page. And if I remember correctly, all I had was, I mean, we have 6 islands floating in the sky, and you are traveling from one to the other, and you're collecting these cute little creatures that it didn't even have a name back then. I mean, we came up with the name of Temtem like sort of relatively late into the development. So at the beginning they were just monsters. They didn't have a proper name.
Monsters, okay.
Yeah, it was called Project Monsters for quite a long time, as far as I'm concerned, until maybe a few months before the Kickstarter. And I didn't even, for the record, I didn't even suggest the name. It came from Crema, and I think it's a brilliant name, but I can't take no credit for it. So yeah, basically from the beginning I knew I wanted to have like different cultures on each one of the islands. Because I mean, I'm very fond of world building. If you give me 6 islands, especially if they're floating in the sky, that makes me think of, what are the different cultures here? So, if you think about it in real terms, chances are that very different cultures would have arisen in such isolated places, and and you have all this interplay between geography and the different cultures that you have in there, and how they have been modeled by the exchanges in between them. And yeah, you don't want me to get too worrying about it, but yeah, that was one of the things. And also for variety's sake, because honestly, if we're going to have 6 islands and the culture is going to feel the same in all of them, and people are just going to look the same in ethnic terms, in the way they talk, in the way they refer to you, in the glimpses you get from their lifestyle, then what's the bloody point of having 6 islands if everything is going to be basically
idiots like me who skip over it because I have nothing interesting to say because you're like the guys over there and I didn't like talking to them, So I'm just gonna go and continue to kill little monsters for my other mission.
So yeah, it was that was something I knew from the very beginning that I wanted to do, and then it was a little bit of trial and error to see what actually fit in there. But yeah, and it was also a little bit of trouble, to be honest, because I figured out that if I was going to picture different cultures in there, and well, I mean, they're loosely based on real life cultures. They're not meant to be one-to-one scale reflections of the real world.
Yeah.
Of course.
But I know that you
still.
speak with people from I think it was India that you told on the talk that you did. I'm not sure if it was India, but I know that you actually had a word with someone from that. It's not culture. I don't know the right name right now.
It's close enough. We tend to call them cultural consultants.
Exactly.
Which basically are, generally speaking, somebody from a certain culture, somebody, I mean, ideally who has more than a passing knowledge of that culture. And basically I've been looking for them, and some of them have been honestly quite difficult to find. For me as a white guy who's living in the Western world, and obviously I'm rather limited to obviously finding people who speak some of the language I speak, because otherwise there's no way we could communicate. So in some cases it's been a little bit more difficult than the others. But this was actually an idea that was suggested to me by a fellow writer. I'm not sure if she's okay with being named, but by a fellow writer who's also a woman of color, and that was something I was asking, like, I want to take some inspiration from real life cultures, and most of them are not Western, because I want to do something a little bit more diverse. However, I want to do this in a way that I know I'm actually being respectful, and maybe my intentions are good, but I just mess it up because I'm just a white Western guy. So, and I end up being disrespectful without meaning to, and it all comes back to bite me in the ass. So that was actually her idea, like, you should get cultural consultants, and I thought it was a little bit difficult at the beginning, but I'm really happy that we went with that. So, for instance, I hope I'm not spoiling anything here. We have a particular island that is inspired by not quite Latin American cultures, actually pre-Columbian American cultures. So basically the native cultures of America before the Spanish arrived. And I had the help of a couple of really nice archaeologists who were,
awesome.
It is bloody amazing. And to be honest, with the feedback they were giving me, I was like, forget about Temtem. What I really want to make now is a game about archaeology and and about uncovering the secrets of the Aztecs and the Mayas and whatnot. But no, they gave really nice inputs. Yeah, no, absolutely.
You have that idea store somewhere, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's one of the things I love about my job, that beyond the job itself, it's so inspiring. You get so much input from things you never have heard before. And the lady who was helping me with Omninesia, which is another one of the islands that is loosely inspired by Polynesia and a few of the other nations in the Pacific, she was giving me great insights about how these cultures see volcanoes in particular as creators of life and land, as well as not just purely destructive forces as I tend to see them, because I'm a Western guy, and I just don't have that sort of cultural outlook. So it's been really nice and really enriching these days. And I like these days I'm talking with a friend of mine from Tanzania who is going to help us with another one of the islands that is loosely inspired in a few African cultures.
Oh, okay.
So I think it's. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. It's been a little bit of trouble actually finding those people and finding a way to work with them. But I find it incredibly, and I think it's just worth making that extra effort. If you're going to be, trying to portray a little bit of diversity into your game, just make the effort of, get somebody who actually knows us and do your utmost to just get it right.
Yeah.
and make sure that you're ethical and respectful, and obviously pay them. It's not really ethical if you go to the trouble of getting those guys and then they don't get paid. So
Oh,
so please
damn.
pay your freelancers. As a freelancer, I have a stake in that. So yeah, please pay your freelancers. And I have to say, I've been very lucky to work with Crema on that, because they were totally understanding. They gave me a budget for that.
Mhm.
So yeah, no, it's been amazing. I'm
Of
really
course,
happy.
people
with
have to
with
eat.
that.
Come on, just pay them.
People need to eat. People. Yeah, right.
I don't know if you're aware. I mean, you pretty much already answered a couple of questions, Victor. But we do have a lot of questions on Twitter. And
Okay, I'm gonna try to keep my answer short. I give no guarantees, but I'm gonna do my best.
We had one in the chat. Someone, I don't know how serious this is. Temtem Go. When's it coming out?
well, I mean, there's a lot of places. I mean, I'm just, this is crazy talk, right? Because I don't take the decisions at Creme. I'm just a freelancer. But there's a lot of places I would love to go with Temtem, to be honest. And I'm not sure if a Temtem Go is my first option. I would love to make a dating sim in the Airborne Archipelago, and yeah, and also in some way, some sort of. So one of my crazy dreams, this is totally not going to happen, but I'm just gonna hype you guys for no reason, because I'm a very awful person. What I would really love to see, because I really like sims, is this kind of like trading simulator when you have your own airship like the Naval, and you're kind of trading your way across the islands. So sort of like the old Pirates of the Caribbean game, but sort of like Pirates of the Airborne Archipelago. That's something I would love to see. But it's not gonna happen. So I just hyped you guys for no reason. Yeah. Absolutely
so
not
like,
gonna happen.
Just like that? Okay, Victor, thank you.
I know. I'm a terrible person. Yeah, you shouldn't be interviewing me at all.
Speaking of terrible people, our chat just gave you the idea for the name for that day, and Simulator called it Tin Tinder. There you go.
Wow.
Can I? I'm totally gonna steal that one from you, man.
That's
Chat,
a great name.
Is everyone okay with that?
But hey, Victor, you can always talk with people from Crema and tell them I have some ideas for DLCs. Okay.
Well, I think they already know, and every time I'm log into the Discord and I'm like, hey guys, I have an idea. I think just the game director just logs off like, nope, I don't want to hear it.
It's already
yeah,
enough.
I know. I've been known to kind of talk him into some of the stuff that's actually already on Temtem. Some of the features, some of the ways. More like the features, some of the way we organize the main quest in some areas. And I know the stuff that I suggested made them work quite a lot more than they were planning to. So yeah, I don't think my suggestions are that well received these days. But no, like seriously, there was a lot of interesting stuff we could do with the IP of Temtem, honestly. Then again, obviously, right now these days they are focused on finishing the game and delivering a great experience. And but I mean, we'll see. I mean, it's I don't know. I have really. I mean, a man can dream, right? So I might even live to see that dating sim.
Okay.
Or the trading one.
Tell me something about the Temtems itself. You come up with the idea of them as a writer, or that idea people from Crema already had the idea, the base idea for the Temtems. So, for instance, you call the idea for instance, the pig, no?
No, not really. So like the Temtems themselves, and particularly their naming, it's one of the few areas that involve any sort of writing in the game that doesn't fall under my jurisdiction, so to speak. So basically, the designs come from the art team.
Okay.
And a few of the initial names were decided in studio by Crema. And I think most of the new Temtem, basically the art team comes up with a design, and then it's up to the community to give them names. And there's this kind of voting and stuff. And there's a lot of, sometimes passions run high and people are like, no, don't vote for that name sucks. And then we end up with a name that, half of the community loves and the other one hates. But I basically have, Yeah, no, I mean, and basically I have no say in that. All I do about the Temtems themselves is write their little piece of lore once all that
Okay.
is decided. So basically, I'm given a name and a picture, and I get to decide their lore. And sometimes it's just a little quirky little detail, and sometimes it's something that kind of ties into the bigger world building. It really it's not as scientific
Mhm.
sometimes as I might make it sound when I try
Okay.
to be self-important. It's more of an art in that, you know, some certain Temtem just, you know, they talk to you and they tell you a certain story, and some of them are very ingrained in the local culture, and I use them to emphasize the different cultures of the archipelago. And some of them they have just like little nice fun little stories, like if I remember correctly, Hidodi, he has this little kind of, he's like a caterpillar, and he has this kind of little 8 legs or something like that with little suckers on the end. And I just was just looking at the picture and I thought, this looks like the kind of little cute creature that just kind of climbs on your shelves and eats your cookies. So yeah, now the
Save
lore
the
of the kind of
cookies.
this, yeah, so like, so it kind of ties into his evolution. So we kind of established by lore, you know, and this is canon now, that Hidodi steals cookies. So like, he's very cute, so children love them, but they're, you know, they're always told like, children, just hide away your cookies because Hidodi eats them. So in Hidodi's evolution, we are kind of tying into that and saying something like, well, you know, after a diet of stolen cookies, Hidodi grows and evolves into this other guy. And this kind of ties into the game itself. So like, you have a quiz at some point where you're asked about a certain legend, and you've never actually heard anything about the legend, but the legend is called something like the Cookie Thief, and you have to guess who the protagonist is. And obviously, if you know your lore inside out, you know it's a Hidodi. So that's
Yeah.
one of the, I mean, this is just a silly example, but it's one of the ways in which I like to tie things up. So, you know, so you can think of the lore of the Temtem as like a very small flavor text that, you know, it's there for purely cosmetic reasons sometimes.
I
But
see.
something I really love to do is kind of tie that back into the bigger game. So, you know, if you actually know the lore of your Temtem, you already have some of the flavor of the places and how they relate to the culture and that sort of stuff. And again, I'm giving you very long answers. Sorry about
No,
that.
it's okay. It's
all good.
okay.
Although Chad is now on a tirade of save the cookies, but
Well,
but talking about names, if we mention a name and I also highlighted that name, it was from an NPC called, and I will say the name, Pau. You know,
oh yeah.
you know what that means, right? No, in Portuguese.
I hear it's something interesting in Portuguese. It's the equivalent of Paul in Catalan. Also, it also means peace in Catalan. But yeah, I think you guys have the more colorful and interesting option.
Yeah, if we saying that, I will not take responsibility to that. Well, you highlighted that on chat, okay? So I'm sorry. Sorry. I think it's good time for us to read a couple questions from our Twitter thread. Oh, what's your favorite Temtem, Victor?
Wow, that's a tricky one. I mean, I love my Pig Epic, and my wife can tell you that I have it on my desk out to this very day. However, when we this is a stupid little thing, but when the Kickstarter was launched, and if you go to the Kickstarter page, there's like this, you know, classic section where they, you know, they talk a little bit about the team and that sort of stuff. And basically every single name has like a Temtem on the side. Like, you know, it almost feels like that Temtem is our kind of like, you know, avatar or something like that. And for some reason, my name, like Víctor Ojuel, narrative designer, is next to the grinning face of a Saku, which is this kind of creature that is like this kind of green blob with a flower on its head. And he has this big, stupid smile that's kind of very me when I'm happy. So I just saw that when the Kickstarter launched. I was like, guys, why did you put this dumb looking guy as a sort of illustration of me? But then it kind of grew on me. And it was interesting to see that from the very beginning, the community was like, you know, some people were very pro Pig Epic and some people were very pro Saku. and so we started making jokes about the Sacultists because they were almost a cult by then. So it's quite interesting because I'm kind of torn in between those two because I really love Pig, and it was one of the very first Temtem that, if I'm not mistaken, it was one of the very first ones that I actually got to see in terms of final art. But I also feel some sort of bond with Saku. I don't know if that makes me sound crazy, probably.
Why?
Nah.
Yeah, well, writers.
Well, I've showed you my first Luma, right?
Oh
It's
yeah.
oh my god, I was so happy when I saw that. No, this is really happening. Yeah, and I got Pig Luma, and I'm so
Oh.
happy.
Oh, I have to say though, and I'm gonna be a total killjoy now. I prefer the normal Pig to be honest, because I like them to be like pink and colorful, and the black version is like nah, not too hyped
But it's
on that one.
shiny, okay?
Okay, yeah, no, it's a Luma. When you catch a Luma, it means you've been playing way too long.
Well, Trash is saying a Luma that doesn't evolve. I don't care about that. It's cute, okay? It's cute. Oh, and by the way, Endeavor Games is telling, tell Victor I say hi. Love from Dar as Salam, Tanzania. Oh,
Yeah, no, that's
okay,
an old friend of mine, Sam. Yeah.
okay.
Hi, Sam. Thanks for listening. I love you, man.
But yeah, talking about the questions, guys, I already showed you the thread. Oh my god, where's the thread? Hold on. Give me a second. Oh, there you go.
Nice.
Uh, so, Arya is asking, did you intentionally have the occasional line where characters would assume a gender and allow you the opportunity to correct them? I'm not hating. I appreciate it so much because it makes them feel human.
Yeah, that was a very unintended consequence. So basically, this happens a couple of times. Well, it used to happen a couple of times in the knees. People pointed that out to me, and I corrected it. So it's probably not on the game anymore, or so I hope. So the thing is, this happens in the knees, which is the first of the islands. So when I
Okay.
wrote those dialogues, which were the very first ones in the game, we didn't even have pronoun tags such as we have now. So we didn't know that you would be able to kind of role play your character as somebody from a certain gender. So it was kind of, so it was a very tricky thing when you were writing NPC dialogues in that way, because the NPCs cannot assume that you are a man or a woman or non-binary. So it was very tricky. And I found it really hard to write dialogues like that. So my initial idea, and I thought it was a good idea at the time, and only now I realized it was actually a mistake, was to have this particular character who addresses you as a woman. And so my thinking back then was that, okay, so if you're role playing your character as a woman, then you can just go along with it and just greet her and have a conversation, and that's it. And if you don't identify as a woman, you don't think your character is a woman, then you just correct her, and she goes like, oh, sorry, it's my bad. And she's supposed to be like an elderly lady whose eyesight is not the best, so it just kind of plays out like that. However, when we finally got working pronoun tags, because I was working on later parts of the game, I didn't go back to review those ones. Obviously, it makes a lot of sense that once you have operative pronoun tags, to just go back and delete those dialogues. Because if you do have the option to decide which gender your character identifies as, it makes no sense that one of the NPCs does not recognize that. So it was a very unfortunate thing, and I'm really happy that somebody pointed that out on Twitter and reached out, and I was able to actually, amend that before it was offensive for more people. It's one of the great things, in my opinion, of having an ongoing thing as we have right now these days with Temtem on early access. The fact that it's not a finished game and you can correct things like that on the fly and avoid offending people or coming across as disrespectful. But I'm quite happy with how it went in terms of I was given the chance to fix that, and it's fixed these days.
Okay.
yeah, that was unintended, but it's been a learning experience as well, and I'm
Okay.
really thankful for the people that pointed that out.
And the community actually, I mean, the studio itself with the community, they are all very talkative, right? Because whenever there's a maintenance on the server, they tweet about that. They let people know what's going on the game. So yeah, I mean, it's a great experience playing the game and watching what's going on Twitter, because they are always very talkative. So on that aspect, they are 5 stars.
Yeah, I think
Good
some of
to
the
not let
team
fans be in the
members
dark.
have. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you.
It's good not to let the fans be in the dark, especially if launch day. Why can't I play? What's going on?
Exactly.
Yeah, I know. There was a big issue with the servers,
Hmm.
because I don't think anyone anticipated how wildly
How much that game
popular.
blew up on the
Yeah,
internet.
it was very
Congrats on
crazy.
that, by the way.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, it's been quite a surprise. I mean, at least to me. I mean, I was expecting it to be a success. I wasn't expecting it to be that big, to be honest. I mean, you should be asking the rest of the team to see what their opinion is on that. But I mean, I'm sitting here in in Leamington Spa, something like 3,000 kilometers from the rest of the team. So I don't know if they were expecting something like that big.
Big, yeah.
But yeah,
Where
it's
is
been very
it?
crazy. I think team members kind of unexpectedly realized that they had a knack for Twitter, and they kind of discovered a new talent for social media. So yeah, no, it's been quite interesting, and not just like Twitter, which is kind of the most kind of forward-facing side of it. The community on Discord has been amazing. I mean, just the all these moderators who've been given so many hours of their time, and
Yeah.
the community that has been building up since the times of the Kickstarter, and yeah, it feels really nice. It feels like we're building something together, not just the
Exactly.
people of the
I
proper
was about
devs,
to
but
say
also the
that.
people who are. And it's, I mean, personally, I have a, it's a very warm, fuzzy feeling when I would just, just kind of hang out in the Discord, and people are like, hey, keep up the good job, and they would ask me like these weird, crazy questions about lore and the canon of Temtem and how things work, and like one day 9 in the morning, I'm just dropping by to say, hey guys, how are you doing? And then I get these very philosophical questions about religion in the archipelago, or
Okay.
how does gravity work in Temtem? Because in theory, all these islands are gravitating around the central Pansan, right? So if gravity should be towards there, but instead this kind of sense of things going bottom up. So actually, there's like two gravities in there, and how does that work?
Wow.
How does the
I
world
don't
physics work? And you're
know,
just,
man.
I write that guy's backstory.
Exactly.
So yeah, and then somebody was like, well, man, you're talking about a game with islands floating in the sky, and you're concerned about gravity. But I mean, I get that. I love world building, and I love lore, and I mean, you can notice that if you play the game, there's a lot of NPCs that are just give you a load of backstory on themselves and their family and their village, and old legends, that that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, come on, some things are just the way they are, because that's how it goes. Why did nobody ask Tolkien how he has a story of the world with 20,000 years of story and there's never any technological progress? I mean, come on.
Trash
Exactly.
was also was actually mentioning that there's a lot of NPCs that talk a lot.
Yeah,
So Trash,
exactly.
Some of them are a
Like
bit on the
father, like son, I
long-winded side.
suppose.
I'm enlightening all of you guys on the chat. So if you guys say something, I will read that. Okay. So the second question from Arya: who's your favorite NPC we can currently interact with, and why?
Well, I think I said that one of my favorite was Arya Turai, actually. I hope I'm not spoiling anything. The captain of the Narwhal, the airship that kind of ferries you back and forth. It's quite interesting. I'm in general, I tend to be fonder of my female characters because I just find them more interesting to write. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm good at that, being a guy, but I definitely try to do my best. And some of them, like Adia, they come across as kind of a little bit stern and fierce, and she's like very no nonsense, like, get in the ship, we have to go, and you're delaying us.
But she have a soft spot on the art, right? There's something behind.
And she kind of develops this kind of grudging sort of camaraderie with the player as you keep doing stuff. Again, I'm trying not to spoil anything, but you keep living adventures together and going through hard spots together, and she kind of develops this sort of rapport with the player. I think she's probably one of my favorites. And then Lady Lottie was a lot of fun to write. She speaks in this kind of Shakespearean Old English, and she's been a lot of fun. And she's in many ways a stand-up of very posh English people that I've met. And well, yeah, I'm just trying, be a little heavy-handed with the British parody when we get to Arbory, the last island. But just in case I'm getting kicked out of the country. But yeah, I mean, I have a lot of love for some of these very small NPCs that you find around, and they tell you very random stuff, or they just pull your leg or whatever. So we have the crazy twins, which started as a little bit of a joke. You meet these two ladies who are twins, and they kind of they are so identical that they kind of mix each other up, and I don't know, I thought it was a kind of good idea. It was actually a bad idea, but it was just fun. And I had to write a lot of NPCs. Okay, so I just went with that. So in the next island, I was like, well, maybe we can make this into a running gag. And we had a couple of crazy twins.
Okay.
And when I was writing the third, I was like, okay, maybe I don't know if this is fun anymore, because maybe I'm repeating it a little bit. And then the Kramer guys came back and they were like, hey, so whereabouts in this new island are going to, where are the new crazy twins going to? So I was like, okay, so now they've become a little bit of a tradition now. So now I just need to keep finding new ways of, making that running gag to feel fresh again. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of these little.
Does anyone likes mechs? I mean,
well, I've pretty much everyone dislikes them, and that's kind of the way it's supposed to be. I don't want to make them a very black and white character. So obviously they come across as really spiteful and whatnot.
He's very rude.
But there's a reason. He's very well. They are very rude. Sorry. Because they are non-binary. But there's a reason for that, and I try to, not just make them evil. That's it. There's a certain competition to that. So they are kind of the unofficial sibling of player, in that they would have their apprentices even the same. And you can feel them competing for the attention of Aina, for the attention of Professor Constantino, of course, and then for the attention of Dojo Masters. So they are someone who feels that they've lived all the childhood on the under the shadow of the player in some ways. And well, they grew up together in a little village such as Zada, and that kind of little town sort of scenario where you cannot get any taller without kind of pushing someone down, if that makes sense. And that kind of colors their whole worldview, and then it explains why they do what they do later on, which I am not going to spoil.
Just keep playing, guys. Okay.
Exactly.
To know.
But yeah, no, I'm very fond of them evolving with the player a little bit, and at some point, well, they're basically the negative of the player in some ways.
I see.
The things that they do are not interesting because they are very evil or very wrong. They are because basically it's the things that the player would have done if things have been rebirthed in a way. Which in my opinion, and this is not a particular new theory, we're talking about the Jungian shadow here, but basically an effective villain in many ways is somebody who's like the hero, but they just took slightly different choices, but choices that the hero could have taken anyway. So basically, quite often the people we really hate are people that are not that different from ourselves. So they're just, close enough to our own self-image that we can see ourselves making those mistakes or being like that or doing that particular thing we hate. And that's where the real tension is, in my opinion. Sorry, very long answer again.
It's okay.
Hey, don't worry about it.
Hold on. We have a question here from Debasu. When do we get our crystal skates back? And as long with that, the climbing gear. Okay. Okay, I'm just saying.
Chat did ask about that as well.
I think everybody's asking about that. I've seen memes about those bloody skates. Well, I mean, what can I say, guys? This is what happens when you try to fly budget in the archipelago, right? I mean, just you should have taken another airship. But why do I know? Like luggage gets lost in airlines all the time. Yeah, I'm. As a matter of fact, I'm trying to decide at which point in the main quest you get your skates back, and I'm basically a very evil person. So like, the more I hear about that, the more I'm like, well, I was gonna give them to you guys, back at the beginning of the fourth island. But however, now I feel just like pushing it back a little bit, maybe even teasing the player.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Oh yeah, I know. Do this task for me, and I'm gonna give you some skates, and then you complete the task, and they are like, oh, sorry, I gave them to someone else, and maybe to Max. So
Wow.
yeah, no, I'm a terribly evil person. So if you want the skates, you should never.
It's like giving the candy to the kid and then nope.
You're gonna hold him at ransom at some point, straight up. That's where the conclusion of this is, isn't it?
At some point, that was a totally different project. I was asked whether I was some sort of family of R.R. Martin, because I was consistently killing the characters that people felt more empathy towards. So yeah, I'm basically a very evil person. So like, just don't tell me which NPC you really love, because I'm totally going to kill them there.
Okay. I love Max.
Nice try. Nope. There's.
Damn it. So let me try to keep on track with the questions. So Marsh is asking, what's your favorite part of writing for Temtem? Was there any troubles that you went through during the process?
Well, my favorite part of writing Temtem or any other game is when I finish and I get paid. I love that part, mate. The side when I can just forget about all that and spend the money, that's amazing.
That's the best part of every job, I mean.
Right? But like, slightly more serious, in general, Temtem, each new island that we start, you can roughly divide it into pre-production and production, as far as I'm concerned, which means that basically on the first phase, I get to do the narrative design or the more designy bits, where I decide, what happens roughly in this island in terms of player, in terms of the, bigger plot, how does the player arrive at this island? How do they leave the island? So what happens in between? Do they, arrive as a novice tamer, and when they leave, they are already someone who is a little bit more powerful or a little bit more recognized? Or do they arrive at this island as someone who is, on the run, and then they become a hero? Or the other way around, they arrived as a hero and they have a certain fall from grace. So I think of those things, and I think in very high level of what's the general plot line, what's the quest progress like. So the way we design it is basically we have a numeric value for the main quest, and that keeps on advancing. So I kind of have to break it down into certain steps. So you have to do this, and then we move the quest progress from 10 to 15, and then you go talk to that guy. 15 to 20, and then you have to beat him, and until you beat him, we don't get to 25, and so on and so forth, which is more the design bits. And then we go into what I call production, which is the actual writing of all those characters, and the actual pieces of dialogue. The part that goes in between, that's when we have something like final art, and I get to see, oh, you guys are having like a waterfall here. Okay, fine. If we have a waterfall here, can I have an NPC by the side of the waterfall dressed like this and that, and so he tells you some lore about it? Or can we have a guy who's swimming here because this is a nice spot to have a little side quest, blah 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 blah. Usually when I'm doing one of these parts, I'm hating it and I want to be doing the other one. So whenever I'm writing, I'm doing the design, I'm like, oh, this is too general. I need something more specific. I'm designing in terms that are too abstract. So I really want to be done with this and start actually writing the characters, because that's when the game actually comes together in my mind, and this island kind of pieces it together. And when I'm in the second part of it, and I actually have to write those dialogues, I totally hate it. And I wish I had designed it in a different way. And I'm like, why can't we go back to the design phase? And I'm like, Guillermo, can I change this and that? And he's like, no, you should have said it in the previous phase. And he's totally right.
Proceed, please, with the idea. Exactly.
So basically, I'm never happy because I'm a writer and because I'm Spanish. But being a little bit more serious now, it's this kind of love-hate relationship I have with the stuff. I love having the chance to design things on a higher level, on the very abstract level, and go kind of top down in terms of design, from the general to the specific. But sometimes it feels like your brain wants to kind of hop from one to the other. So you come up with an NPC concept, and then you immediately want to jump down and just write him, but you cannot, because this is not the right time to do that. And it takes a little bit of discipline.
There's an NPC with a mission that really looks like me. It's where the player needs to help him know the keys for the locker. Back at the school.
I know it's bad, yeah.
It's totally like me. Okay, just please help me. I can't open this crap.
Well, you have to give it to him. The combination is really difficult. When you finally get the numbers there, I mean, that's a very tricky combination. A lot of the side quests are kind of for fun in a way. They get a little bit more serious as the story progresses, because it gets just a little bit more serious and darker. However, I find myself wanting to do more sort of light-hearted quests when the story gets a little bit more serious, because I feel like they serve us some sort of command in a way, because I don't want to get too serious and too heavy. So the archipelago is somewhere where obviously you can have evil forces like Clan Balsoro, but in general people tend to be very laid back and happy-go-lucky about things. And this is something it took me quite a long time to figure out in the beginning, because I was used to doing stuff that was kind of darker and more mature, and kind of dealing with heavier topics from real life. So yeah, I had some pitches and some ideas that I sent to the team, and they came back with like, Victor, this is a game for I'm like, it's not necessarily for kids, but we are not going to talk about slavery and drugs, and I mean it has to be a more cheerful
Imagine
game.
having a character that looks like the Narcos character.
Adults only Temtem win.
With the mustache. And
that would be a kind of a cool idea as well, to do a gritty reboot of Temtem, like Temtem Fallout, something like that.
Temtem Narcos
game in the Temtem setting. Yeah, well, no, that's how my brain works. I want to do a lot of pointless shit that kind of just shares some characteristics. It makes no sense, of course.
Tell me something, Victor. Did you had the possibility to choose which Temtem is the rarest one, or not really?
No, not really. No. I mean, so my field is narrative design, which is kind of basically it's kind of a little bit tenuous sometimes, but it basically deals with all the stuff that has to do with the way we tell a story. However, the proper design, or properly called game design, which includes stuff like the stats of the different Temtem and how they the whole balancing thing. That's a totally different science. It's totally separate from the stuff I do, and that's a proper, between inverted commas, proper designer, the non-narrative designer, so to speak, that take care of that. And I mean, again, I know next to nothing about that, but it's a very fine and exact art to find the perfect balance between Temps to make sure that one of them is not awfully overpowered or totally useless, because and this is something that I know they've done a great emphasis on, the fact that unlike Pokemon, they want maybe not all of the Temtems, but quite a few of the Temtems to be very competitive. And if you know how to use them, most of them need to be viable in different ways. And,
Genki is very good. Genki, right? Is very
so
good.
I'm told. So I'm told, yeah. Well, I mean, it's probably also the fact that obviously, because you start on the knees, there's a lot of water Temtem involved. So obviously that's a good one. But yeah, I mean, that's all the whole balancing and tweaking of Temtem and how they interact with gear and the different synergies and all that kind of stuff. That's a very complex art for which I have a lot of respect, and because I'm very bad at math. And that's a lot of mathematics and statistics, and I have no idea how they do it. They are wizards to me.
That makes us two. So you're just fine here, okay?
Solidarity, man.
Bro fist.
Do I just kind of hit my micro with a fist? Or?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, just do that.
There you go.
And he.
Hold on. A second question from Debasu. When will the trading post be released? It means Action House, I guess.
Short answer, I have no idea.
That's a valid point. I mean, the game, it will be full released around the end of the year, right?
That's another thing I have no idea about.
Okay.
Honestly, I mean, like that's one of the things that I really don't know. And if I knew, I'm not sure I'm supposed to say that, because as a freelancer, I'm kind of so I basically don't have that information. And yeah, I don't want to get killed for saying the wrong thing.
If you can't speak, you can't speak.
We don't want anyone to have to suddenly disappear.
Exactly.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll have a very nice NPC who is very sympathetic with your name. Thank you.
So,
that's gonna be an awkward name for
Sahul of Tarsus
nice.
is asking, is there gonna be more types released?
I think that
You mean like elemental types?
I might be putting my foot in my mouth now. Think no, it's pretty much the ones that are there.
Okay.
I think so, yeah. Because obviously, like I was saying before, if you introduce a new type, it's not just a new type. You have to basically tweak all the interactions between all the different types. So that would be
at
Wow.
12 currently, right?
very
Now
tricky
that
thing
you
to do.
mentioned
Yeah.
that, Jesus, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of elements right now.
Yeah. So for the record,
Look it up on the Kickstarter. It says 12, so that's what I'm going off of.
Exactly.
Yeah. For the record, I once tried to kind of, between inverted commas, introduce a new type. Ice Temtem, because in my mind we had Ice Temtem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm an idiot who cannot read. So I designed one of the pitches for one of the islands on Russia and part of Mongolia, and it was going to be this ice island where everything is frozen, and this is where the Ice Temtem come from, and I went into a lot of detail, only to be told that, yeah, this is a cool concept, but we don't have Ice Temtem. And I was like, no, really? No, I mean, I just so I kind of invented them in my mind, and because
yeah, that's for expansions or DLC or new.
Exactly. So I
2 or whatever.
I was so in love with the idea of Ice Temtem that I actually tried to convince them to have Ice Temtem, and they were like, "No, that's not gonna happen."
There's
Obviously.
actually abilities that deal that can turn the Tem into Ice block, right?
That's clearly a hint that it's going to happen at some point in a DLC. Oh my goodness! No, it's not. I'm messing with you.
Like,
No, because I tend to make a lot of silly jokes, but then people believe that stuff, and you know they they go crazy on the Discord. But yeah, no, I've had people suggest that we should have Ice Temtem on a DLC. Honestly, I have so many ideas for DLC. Could be making Temtem until 2030.
Akura, I'm not sure if I understand your question, but if you can, does any
count towards the 1 out of 4,000?
Sorry, say again.
I don't know what that means. Does any count towards the 1 to 4,000?
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell they're asking. I'm sorry.
I'm not sure.
It sounds like it's a very clever reference to something that I'm not getting right now. I'm sorry, guys. It's 10 p.m. around here. My brain is just switching off.
Okay, Kelly is asking, are you reconsidering today's Luma nerf? Also, when do we get the next island? I'm pretty sure that
Can you disclose when you get the next island?
I'm pretty sure that all those two questions are for the devs itself, not to Victor in specific, because he's the writer of Temtem. But yeah, can you tell us anything about it?
So what was the first question? Sorry.
Are you reconsidering today's Luma nerf?
Honestly, that kind of goes into pure design. I'm not. That's not something I tweak myself.
Hey, ask them if they want
And
that next week.
And I really, well, I mean, I can tell you that the next island is going to take a while because we're still working on that one.
Mhm.
As to an exact date, again, I don't know it, and I don't want to risk, Hitman being sent on, for me because I said the wrong date. So I'm sorry, I can't answer those questions without a lawyer.
Okay. I see.
Somebody asked earlier, are there dinosaurs? Will there be dinosaurs?
I mean,
well, I mean, canonically speaking, Temtem are the only fauna of the archipelago, right? So if we had dinosaurs, and I'm not confirming that, if we did have dinosaurs, they should be Temosaur or Sotems, something like that. So the dinosaurs themselves need to be Temtem. I don't know. That would be very cool, as a matter of fact. Honestly, personally, what I really want to see is Temtem in the shape of an elephant because I really, really love elephants. That's something I really want to see. So, guys, if you're listening to that, make some elephants, please.
So the attack will be the element will be wind, right? Because the elephant attacks with the.
Yeah, you just gave him an idea. Nice job, Manic.
Yeah. Well, to my mind, the elephant should be something like earth and water, probably.
That makes sense.
Because I kind of, maybe I've seen Dumbo one way too many, but I kind of picture them kind of just throwing water at you. But yeah, I don't know.
Well,
I think we already
wind,
yeah,
flying. I don't know.
Well, oh, you might be onto something here.
Oh my god.
Yeah, on the other hand, I don't think we want to get sued by Disney. So
okay.
Yeah, it was a cool idea. Let's just leave it at that.
Lawyers again. Okay.
Exactly. I'm not messing with the big D.
Kelly's saying, "Curse those lawyers." I kind of have to agree with him. So yeah, guys, I think we kind of cover pretty much the basis. We would have to speak with Victor for an entire week to cover everything what he's been doing on Temtem.
We'd have to find a block of time to do this another time.
But hey, this is an idea.
I can definitely speak for a week if I get some sleep in between. But yeah, no, definitely can do that.
Sleep? No, we don't do that, right?
We're indies, right?
It's only 5 o'clock here, man.
5?
Oof.
Well, it's 10 here, 10 p.m. Yeah, Schmucky lives on the other side of...
I'm on the wrong side of the ocean. That's why we couldn't do this last week.
I'm so sorry about that.
That's fine.
You guys told me 10 p.m. I think, and I so thought it was 10 a.m. My fault. Sorry, guys.
No, it's okay.
Anyway,
It's okay.
Anyone who's listening who wanted to listen to me last week, it was actually my fault. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, hey, he's throwing himself under the bus. Thanks.
Victor, when I received that message, I was like, wait, what's going on here? You PM'd me at 10:30 a.m. I'm ready when you are. And I was, what? I was at work. Like,
I woke up to those messages and just wait, what? Huh?
Yeah, and it was totally me. So, these things wouldn't happen if we use the 24-hour clock like the Europeans do. But yeah, anyway, I
It
have to
would still be
stop
10.
saying
It would still be too early in the morning. And I do use a 24-hour clock, so
Okay, fair enough. I'll give you that. Yeah.
okay. So, guys, like I said, I guess we pretty much cover. Well, we covered a short part of.
keep going for we could like you said,
Exactly.
talk for a week. We could keep going.
Hey, Victor, we can invite
And
you.
maybe we should actually consider doing that at a later point in time.
We can invite you on another time if you want.
Oh, that would be my absolute pleasure. However, my wife is going to kill me if I don't go help with dinner. So
Okay.
let's
By all means.
usually there's a lot of threads on my life. You know, my employers, my wife. This is the life of the freelancer. But yeah, no, it's definitely a pleasure talking to you guys and answering the questions of Temtem fans. And I talk way too much, and I could definitely go on forever. But yeah, it's probably a good idea to find another occasion for it. I'll be glad to.
Oh, by the way, guys, I'm sorry if we don't, if we haven't actually replied to your message. Please, by all means, you guys can leave your question on that thread there, and Victor is already tagged, so he can answer you on that. I guess. So
Well, I can do.
Notes for questions that we may not have covered.
yeah. So yeah, thank you so much for being here with us, guys. It's a pleasure. It was a pleasure to be here talking with Victor. Thank you so much
Oh,
once
it's been
again
fun.
for accepting our invite, Victor.
Thank you, guys, for having me. I love talking.
Okay, Shmaki, again, thank you for being here, for being part of the podcast. You're awesome. The links
was
will
fun.
be listed below. The video will be available on YouTube and on podcast. Jesus, on Spotify.
Spooky.
So yeah, thank you. See you all next week. Bye bye.
Have a great day. Thank you.
See ya.